Hey guys, this is Jay Calder from JAYONBOXING, and I'm here with something a little bit different here, a fight preview for Tyson Fury versus Francis Ngannou. But before we get into this one, be sure to like and subscribe, and of course drop all your thoughts, your predictions, your bets, so on and so forth down in the comments section below. Greatly appreciate when you guys get interactive with the channel. It means a lot to me, so go ahead and drop all that down in the comments section below. A little bit of fight info here. We have the WBC heavyweight champion Tyson Fury taking on the former UFC heavyweight champion Francis Ngannou. This will be taking place in Saudi Arabia on ESPN pay-per-view here in the States in the heavyweight division with, of course, no title on the line. And for those unaware, of course, while Fury is a champion, because Francis Ngannou is making his boxing debut and he is not really a ranked fighter, obviously, in the sport, the title can't quite be on the line. As corrupt as the WBC likes to be at times, they couldn't even find a way to make that justifiable. But in any event, we still do have the champion taking on Ngannou in something of a maybe exhibition, maybe realistic fight. Who the hell knows? But in any event, that is the fight that we have here. Now, in terms of my initial thoughts, I think boxing's kind of in a weird spot. That's the first thing that comes to mind with this kind of encounter. You know, you have fights that are starting to get made. Earlier in the year, of course, you had Tank taking on Ryan Garcia and something of an attraction. If it wasn't a great fight, at the very least, it drew some eyeballs to the sport. You also have fights like Terence Crawford versus Errol Spence happening. You have some pretty solid fights taking place later on in the year, including like a Devin Haney versus a Regis Prograis. But not only are we getting fights made, they're also doing pretty well. You know, some pay-per-views are actually selling in an age and in a market where you can easily rip these on streams all over the internet. They're actually selling to some capacity. And I think that's pretty good and healthy for the sport. Whether or not we should be focusing so much on a pay-per-view model, or whether or not we should be focusing so much on trying to sell every single fight we think we can make a dime off of, I don't know if that's the best thing for the sport, but at the very least it shows signs of life in a sport that many have said has been dying for about 20 years now. Still, there is so much gimmick that is mixed in to the sport. You know, you have Jake Paul running around. You know, this most recently, of course, you have the pay-per-view with KSI and Dylan Dennis and Logan Paul and all that mess. And so you just wonder, is it a little bit too much for the sport? You know, is it good? Does it hurt? Does it help the sport? And it's difficult to say because on the one hand, you are drawing in more eyeballs. That's always a positive. You want people looking at the sport. On the other hand, you want those eyeballs to stick around. And you wonder, in a fight like this where you have Fury versus Ngannou, the two baddest men on the planet, going at it, is this the sort of fight that will really convert fans to the sport? Of course, it always depends on, is the fight good? If it, you know, the better the fight is, the more likely it is to keep that sort of retention for boxing. But at the same time, are they just buying it for the spectacle because it's a kind of freak occurrence? It's a, you know, the circus has kind of come to town, they want to check it out, but it's certainly not something they're going to dive deeply into. You always kind of wonder these sort of things, and you just hope that boxing is getting the balance right, where there's enough of those bigger fights that we mentioned earlier taking place, and all the side stuff can then happen. I'm not opposed to sideshows. They have their place in entertainment. This is, after all, an entertainment business, but you just want to make sure boxing is getting a good balance. And I hope that when this kind of fight takes place and it's done and dusted, you have someone like Fury who maybe takes boxing a bit more seriously and tries to finish off his career, making the fights like he has with Usyk already signed as his priority. Sort of next thought I had, of course, was, does Ngannou have a shot? Now, again, my instinct is telling me no. Honestly, I just don't see the shot here. Again, he has a puncher's chance, but even that might be tough. You know, he puts so much into his shots when he throws that he can tire pretty quickly in MMA, and I'm sure in boxing it will translate to some degree as well. You just wonder if he's going to be able to, with those very timed lunging shots, really put a lot on them to be able to hurt Fury, who probably ducks and dodges them pretty well. At the same time, if he's not putting enough on him, even if he lands, is it really going to have the impact it would otherwise have? I don't think so, and I think Fury counters that and really uses that as the window of opportunity to get in there and lay some hurt on Ngannou. So even though he obviously has the power advantage, if you were just to compare their two punches side to side, it's about getting there, landing. The punch has to land for it to matter, and if you can't get it home consistently enough, you don't have much of a puncher's chance either, for that matter. It also depends on what Fury shows up. You know, if Fury's going to try and toy with him or try to carry him, could that cost Fury? You know, could Ngannou get too many chances in a 10-round fight, which I believe this is scheduled for? Perhaps down the stretch he does get a bit luckier. You know, things like this can happen. Whether or not that makes sense from a boxing perspective, these kind of weird incidents can happen when you don't finish your food. Cannot play with your plate. You have to finish your food. And if you don't see Fury show up focused and committed, you're at least giving Ngannou maybe his real best chance, which is Fury taking him lightly. And that's kind of the third thought I really had was, does Fury take this fight seriously? If Fury's, you know, taking his foot off the gas and not really committing and just trying to box and weave and doing his best Muhammad Ali impression, and all of a sudden you see Ngannou just throwing those bombs and looking to sell out and say, hey, I might be done after 5 rounds, but I'm going to give it the best I have in the meantime, you wonder if something suspicious or crazy might happen in this fight that you just can't possibly predict. With that, of course, you wonder what that does to Fury. What does it do to boxing if Fury struggles or perhaps even loses, or even gets decked or hurt in this fight? How does that kind of damage boxing, or at the very least Fury, in respect to his career when he's, taking this what should be money grab fight, perhaps too lightly, and then gets, really get some payback for it in the process? You want to kind of look at it and hope that that doesn't happen. You want, for both sake, really, you want Fury to take it seriously so he's on his game, but you want Ngannou to get the best version of Fury so we see where he's at in terms of boxing as well. The best case scenario to me is that this is a legitimate fight they both take seriously, and at the end of the day, whoever wins, wins. But while we might assume pretty strongly that that will be Fury, we want it to be because the best of either guy showed up on the night and happened to pull off the win. The final question is, of course, this might hurt Fury, of course, if he looks bad, or definitely if he loses, but I also wonder, does this hurt Ngannou in MMA? I don't think so. What I will say is he's taken a large time away from MMA, including his injuries and now with this boxing kind of event that he's putting forward, but also he's getting up there in age. Does this potentially hurt his star power and take away some of the momentum he had in MMA with UFC going forward? And I know he's with a different organization now, already signed a good contract, but you do wonder if this is going to hurt some of the momentum he had in his kind of ability to draw or potentially negotiate at the negotiation table down the road. Again, that being said, if he does even slightly better than we expected, does this perhaps enhance his boxing future? You have to kind of weigh both of your options here if you're Ngannou. So it's just kind of curious to see how it's going to affect him if what we expect to happen to him ends up being the result, which is that he gets outclassed pretty thoroughly against the tried and true boxer in a boxing match. The realistic mark that I can look at for Ngannou in terms of success is that he doesn't embarrass himself, he doesn't get knocked out in a round or two, and at the very least maybe worries Fury here or there in the matchup. If he's unable to do that, again, I think he can still save face saying he at least tried and jumped sports, which of course all the MMA guys deserve credit for doing that because most boxers are not doing it the other way around. But you just hope that Ngannou recovers from it in terms of his ability to draw, ability to, go into his true sport of MMA and be able to continue to be successful. In any event, kind of get into my pick here. Again, it's a preview / pick. I guess I'll go with the prediction here. In terms of my pick, this should be pretty obvious. No disrespect to Ngannou, but Fury has to win this one, and do so convincingly, and I believe he does. How this fight goes really depends on what Fury shows up. If he wants to entertain, coast, and kind of carry Ngannou, he could win a rather one-sided game of cat and mouse while making Francis miss all night and make him look like a fish out of water, UD him all the way through. Or Fury can set traps, stay on that jab, and begin to walk Ngannou into those shots that push him back, tire him, kind of knock him out of his, game plan, and then finish him off rather quickly. I think Fury might take a round or two to kind of mess about, but it's mostly the latter of those options, and Fury gets rid of Ngannou in about a handful of frames. Winner, Tyson Fury via mid-fight stoppage. Also give you some betting odds here. We have Fury coming in at a very obvious favorite, minus 1,200, with Ngannou coming in at a plus 700. If you like a puncher's chance, that might be what Ngannou has, and you're certainly getting 7-1 odds, so certainly something you might want to take. But to me, nothing really entices me. Fury's too much of a risk in terms of what you're having to put on the line, and Ngannou just doesn't seem like there's a lot of value for a return there. But that'd be the only line I could see, is if you feel like throwing a couple bucks on it for fun, that would be the move. The over-under is really where you have the action. It's set at 4.5, with the over coming in at a plus 105 and the under coming in at a minus 135. To me, that's right on the line. Before I even saw those odds, I thought Fury took care of him in about 4 to 5 rounds. That's about where that line is, of course, so that's a very well set line. Either way, it kind of just depends on how you're feeling in this one, because you're getting about the same kind of even up, straight up odds here. But in my opinion, I actually think that the over makes a little bit of sense in the event Fury does try to coast a bit and play with his food a bit more. It might get extended a little bit. But that being said, if it happened in 3 or 4 rounds, wouldn't surprise me at all. So just kind of depends on what your thought is on that one. But in any event, those are your odds. And my prediction record as of this recording is 32-12 with 22 exact. But let me know what you guys think down in the comments. Love to hear your thoughts on this one, your predictions, your kind of thoughts on these sort of fights, so on and so forth. Of course, you can check out the socials here, like, comment, share, all that good stuff. Greatly appreciate it. And of course, be sure to visit JAYONBOXING.com for schedule results, betting odds, rankings, grades, all that good stuff. And as always, until next time.